Hello, everyone. It is time for the 2023 Batastic Awards. This is our first ever official award show for our favorite small press and indie books. I'm Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, and I'm going to pretend like I can pick my favorites of any category that we made up awards for. So thanks for joining me, and please don't judge me too harshly for all of my indecision. That will definitely happen as the show goes on. But 2023 was such a big year for small press and indie comics. We had, we do our weekly live show, Wind Down Your Weekend, where we go over all the small press and indie books every single week to let you know what came out, what the books are about, what the series has, in store for you, and all of the great art that you get to see. And so we figured, let's wrap it up in a new way this year. Usually we do these were all the books that we loved, but we thought, let's do an award show that's just about those small press and indie books that we spent a whole year covering. And then maybe you'll find something else that you didn't remember or didn't hear about as that time went on. So I'm going to use notes because I've got all the categories written down, and I'm going to hopefully are we live? Yes, it says there we are. Okay. And I'm going to go through. I've got most of the books to show you, at least the cover, maybe a little bit of the art as we talk about them, but there is going to be a couple that I just I don't even have copies of left right now. So we're going to kick it off with the categories that you're kind of used to being a little bit at the end. We're going to start with...
No, we're completely disconnected.
Oh, that's weird. It's still showing up over here. Okay. Yeah, so I guess they're still going. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If we get disconnected, let us know. All right, so we're going to start out by talking about some of our favorite writers of this year. And we are going to do that in two different categories. We've got the writers you may not know their names already, and you definitely should. And then we've got a category for those writers you expect to hear names. So I don't have the books to show you for this part, so use your imaginations. For the best writer that we want you to learn their name this year and really focus on all their books coming out, we've got Lewis Southard, who wrote Midnight Western Theater and The Blackout Bombshell, which we're going to talk about, and I do actually have that right here, really easy to show. So I'm going to throw that up there while we talk about it. We also have Joseph Schmalk, who wrote 7 Years in Darkness, and who is known for so many other books in the past. And if you haven't read We Don't Kill Spiders or Phantom Star Killer or any of those older books from Joseph Schmalk, go back and grab those to get yourself acquainted. We've got John Allison for The Great British Bump Off, which was a Agatha Christie style mystery that takes place on essentially a cooking show like The Great British Bake Off, and was a really great comedy. We've got Becky Cloonan and Tula Lotay for the first issue of Somna. Just that one issue automatically puts that team on the list. And then Kelly Thompson for Black Cloak, and Simon Kodronsky for Something Epic and Blood Commandment as a part of his one-man art imprint. And if you have been following along for the last little bit of 2023, you know one of my favorite books that we're going to talk about a lot tonight is Something Epic. And so we are going to give our best writer whose name you need to learn this year award to Simon Kodronsky for Something Epic and Blood Commandment. Yay! I feel like I get to clap too. I'm going to put this down so that's not confusing for people. Best writer you expect us to name, and whose name you probably know and you go to and you pick up those books automatically when you see it. We had Scott Snyder, who this year put out so many books. Canary, Barnstormers, Dark Spaces Dungeon, Clear, continued on Undiscovered Country with Charles Soule, and was actually overseeing the Dark Spaces imprint for IDW. Every year is a great year for Scott Snyder. We had Mark Russell for Traveling to Mars, Rumpus Room, the continuation of Second Coming, My Bad, and Project Cryptid, which he did the first issue of that anthology. David Booher, who did Dungeons and Dragons, the Saturday Morning Adventure series, Specs, Killer Queens Volume 2, and Canto, which didn't technically come out this year, but I always have to remind you that that's who David Booher is in case you haven't picked it up. Tom King for his indie books, which were I Love Everlasting's continuing, and the launch of Animal Pound, which is such a great first issue for that. James Tynion IV, who of course did Something That's Killing the Children, Deviant World Tree, and half the other books on the shelf. And of course, Jeff Lemire for Fish Flies, Phantom Road, and Tenement, and everything else that comes out of that Bone Orchard mythos. We actually are seeing that world really build up for that horror universe. And for this year, the best writer, whose name you probably know, but you need to keep it on your radar, we are going with Mark Russell for Traveling to Mars, Rumpus Room, Second Coming, My Bad, and Project Cryptid. It is so incredible to see all of the books that Mark Russell has coming out, and I cannot wait to see how Traveling to Mars wraps up. All right, best artist. This was impossible, and I want to thank our customer and one of our great subscribers and creators and great friends, Anthony Pizzo, for helping with making these lists. He helped we had a Google Doc, and we were just filling it up with books and writers and artists that we just wanted to go in, and neither one of us could stop adding when it came to artists. So I tried to limit it. We're gonna see how we do. Best artist, obviously Zoe Thorogood, who is just on top of the world right now. She's known for Hack Creepshow, Life is Strange, and a bunch of graphic novels and independent work this year. Max Siren, who did Great British Bump Off. Kari Randolph on Sirens of the City. Tula Lotay for Barnstormers and Somna. Peter Kowalski, who did All Eight Eyes, Where Monsters Lie, and is on the New American Psycho book from Sumerian. Chris Sheehan for Specs and Nightfall double feature, and just being an all-around cool dude who is always been a great supporter of Bat City. Included Bat City in Specs, which we really appreciate. Our first sticker shows up. Becky Cloonan for Somna. If you didn't know, Tula Lotay and Becky Cloonan are splitting the artwork on Somna. Marco Fontanelli for Space Outlaws, which is an amazing book that Marco is handling everything for. Jacob Phillips, That Texas Blood, Infield Gang Massacre, and Newburn. Simon Kojansky for Something Epic and Blood Commandment. And Emma Kubert for Stoneheart and Pandora. And I really struggled with this, so I'm still going with the concept of giving it a tie. So it is Tula Lotay for Barnstormers and Somna, and Simon Krajansky for Something Epic and Blood Commandment. And again, if you don't know, Simon is actually doing the art, the lettering, the writing, everything on Something Epic and Blood Commandment. And the coolest thing that he did in Something Epic was it is all about somebody's imagination. And so every single art style imaginable shows up in that book. He really is a one-man artist, and that is such a great name for that imprint. And Tula's beautiful lines, work, and coloring and dreamy landscapes on Barnstormers and Somna, they're two sides of my brain, and it's perfect, and I can't choose between them because I love them both so much. All right, we've got Best Colorist. We've got Dee Knuff, who colored Barnstormers, Door to Door, Night by Night, Indigo Children, Somna, and half of the books that Marvel put out this year. Pip Martin, That Texas Blood, Infield Gang Massacre, and Newburn for that beautiful noir and western coloring. Matt Hollingsworth, who is doing Love Everlasting and bringing pulp coloring back to life. Matea D. Alulis, who is the colorist on The Call, and bringing that dreamy world and magical styles put together. Michael Dialinis, I always say his name wrong, Michael Dialinis, who is doing Zawa for those bright pop colors that just look so great. Vladimir Popov for Where Monsters Lie, which was such a cool book. And Lorenzo De Felici for Chroma and the use of black and white and grayscale and those pops of colors to show that awakening. If you didn't read Chroma, it's very much like the Giver, where the color kind of or Pleasantville, where color kind of slowly rolls out, and the way Lorenzo used that was really, really amazing. We are going to go with, for Best Colorist, we are going to hand it over to Dee Knuff for Barnstormers, Door to Door, Night by Night, Indigo Children, and Somna. And again, half of your Marvel books. Dee does such a great job. You may know Dee's work. He's colored everything that Megan Hutchison has ever done, every cover for the most part, and all of Donny Cates' work. So if you are not familiar with that, this is a category that's really, really important. Color can change the book, not just for the tones and the mood and the texture, but the colorist is the last person to really lay something down in artwork. So take the time to read that colorist name and learn who they are, because they are bringing those books to life in amazing ways for us. And speaking of things that you need to remember, best letterer. If you didn't have a letterer, you wouldn't have a story, because they're the ones who put all those words in there and they make it come to life. They also do a lot of the graphic design work behind the scenes. So focus on your letterers. They get forgotten more than anybody else. Sometimes they don't even get listed on award shows. They are doing a hard job, and they're doing it very, very quickly. So you want to make sure you take the time to know those letterers. And we've got quite a few this year, that just a couple this year that we really want to highlight. First of all, Taylor Esposito for Charred Remains, Eden Frost, Invasive, King Kong the Great War, Tear Us Apart, and I'm always going to throw in that Taylor did the lettering for Bunny Mask and Rainbow Bright in the past, so crushing it. And World Designs, which has most recently been working on Rare Flavors outside of some of the big 2 books that they do. And then Hassan Atsmane Allahu. And I'm sorry if I completely destroyed your name, but Hassan did All 8 Eyes, Assassin's Apprentice, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Beyond Real, The Cull, Deep Cuts, and Deviants. And none of those books look anything the same, so that's really cool to throw all of those different genres out there. And so our winner for Best Letterer is... to wait for the applause, is Hassan Atsmane Allahu. Seriously, none of these books look the same, and it's so cool to see, how you can take the style of the story and use that for the lettering, which is so important, and we don't focus on that enough. How much space do you take up in those bubbles? How much room do you give for an exploding text? Where do you break the words? Even that is such a big part of lettering, and so we want to make sure we remember those names. And congratulations, Hassan, and great work so far this year or last year. Best small press. All right, we're going to do this before we dive into all the different genres of the books. Best small press that we really, I actually leaned on all of our customers for this one and said, who is putting out the books that you love the most that are not Marvel and DC? Like, what are your your favorite small press, and not Marvel, DC, or Image, I guess I should say, because we know Image, Boom. What about everybody else? All right, I guess I left Boom in here, but Image, Marvel, DC, they're all your big 3. What are your favorites from the other publishers? And so we have Blood Moon Comics, which is a big fan favorite here. Band of Bards, which really launched this last year in 2023. Vault Comics, Boom Studios, Scout Comics, and Mad Cave Comics, who are celebrating their 10th anniversary in 2024. We're really excited. All right, and the winner for Best Small Press this year is Vault Comics. And the reason Vault won for us this year, not only did they put out some incredible books that they always push the boundaries with when they do that, but Vault actually gave you free books this year. Vault allowed stores to buy 2 different titles, first issues, for free, no matter how many you wanted. If you wanted to order 1,000 copies of those books and just hand them out on a street corner with your name on it, Vault gave them to you for free. There was no rules. It was just go for it. Get them for free and put them in customers' hands. And they gave us the option to do that with one of their fantasy titles and one of their sci-fi titles. And that is incredible that they did that. They also, for us, they gave us some signed copies to give away to customers who subscribe to titles and things like that. And they are just such a huge support for comic book stores. They gave us a shout out on one of their shows. We've always loved them. They have just been great for friends for comic book stores and comic book readers. And 2023, they really pushed that even further. So congrats, Vault. And to everybody else, thank you for continuously putting out great books. I didn't want to choose a winner because I love you all. So we're going to keep toting all of your books and cheering you on every day. But congrats again to Vault. All right, so we're going to talk about the books by category. So we're going to start with Best Fantasy Book, and I have them in the opposite order. So we're going to start... we had Sirens of the City this year, which was an urban fantasy about a girl who found out that she had some magical powers that she never expected to find, and that left her on the street, and she has been dealing with how that's going to impact her as that goes on. We also have Rare Flavors. This is Ram V and Felipe Andrade, who did Many Deaths of Layla Starr. Good Lord, I cannot talk tonight. It's not Sunday. I'm not used to talking on a Monday at all. It's Rare Flavors. This is what a great book this is. This combines the concept of food manga, where we put the recipes in there and the storytelling in there, but with the idea of this demonesque god going on a journey for his last big hurrah of food experiences and trying to get this mortal human who's a filmmaker to really fall in love with that as well. We've got, in the opposite order, Something Epic. Again, I love this book. Simon just won our best writer, whose name you need to know, and our best artist of the year. This is a fantastic book all about a kid who, as a child, can see inside of everybody else's imagination and everything that comes to life. And he ends up having this experience that leads him down a path which really is a lot of darkness, and he kind of has to save the imaginary world of all people through that. And in his adulthood, and it's just a beautiful story about what art and imagination really mean for people. Sacrificers. This is Rick Remender's newest book, and it is all about a world where people have to raise their children just to be sacrificed, and some gods who are very needy of those sacrifices for a lot of different reasons, and I'm not going to tell you why, because you have to read the book because it's still ongoing. The Hunger and the Dusk. This is all about a world where orcs are having to join up with humans to fight these evil creatures who have just kind of come out of nowhere and are killing everybody. And it's got some absolutely incredible storytelling from G. Willow Wilson in here. We also have Chroma, which I don't have in my hand right now, but Chroma, like I said, is a story that's very much like The Giver, about a young person who discovers that the black and white world they've been forced to live in is not necessarily the way the world should be. And then Black Cloak. This is a story that is all about a world that we've found some murders that have happened of a fairy prince who is supposed to take over, and our detectives, the Black Cloaks, have to go undercover and do all of this investigating, and we find out that there is much more to the world and to this connection that these people have. It's very much for fans of something like Saga to give them that next big book that they need to be looking into. And our winner for Best Fantasy Book in 2023 is Rare Flavors. Ram V and Felipe Andrade, like I said, are just bringing such an incredible book out with this one. It is still ongoing. We are 3 issues in. If you haven't jumped in, this is a great time to do just that and really fall in love with this series. I want to know what's going to happen. You should want to know too. All right, so we've got Best Sci-Fi Book. Let's see what I actually have. All right, so we've got The Seasons Have Teeth starting it off. This is all about a photojournalist who feels like he didn't do his best work ever. He never really experienced actually doing the photojournalist thing. He ends up going out to photograph the seasons. The seasons happen to be giant kaiju. This is a beautiful book with great artwork and an amazing story. Space Outlaws, which I do not have. Space Outlaws is from Marco Fontanelli. It is an incredible book about essentially an alien that lands in the Old West and is like, hey, I'm going to take over this place because I can, because I'm an alien and I've got all this power against these people. And you kind of get cowboys versus aliens, but you get it with Marco's incredible artwork and storytelling. Such a great story. Hexagon Bridge. We've got a world where we are trying to essentially map out an alternate dimension in a very interstellar way. We see a couple go over there and both of them end up lost in this other dimension, and their daughter grows up trying to find them with the fact that she is one of the only people who can see into that world, and she can communicate with an AI, and they are attempting to solve that mystery of what happened to her parents. Don't Spit in the Wind. This is such a credible book about us destroying our own world and all of the things that we would continuously do even after we were like forced into bubbles and nothing is going well. This is what still happens and how we would continue to just mess that up, and these people who are just trying to survive this last little bit in there. Stefano Cardicelli does some really incredible artwork in this. You should definitely check out the line work in that book. Clear, I don't have a copy of, one of Scott Snyder's books. It is all about a world where people can have these visors that go over them, essentially, that can make us see the world in whatever way we want to. And one guy decides that he wants to see the world as it actually is. And in that time that he is one of the few people doing that, he actually finds out that his estranged wife has killed herself, and he's not sure that he believes that that's true, and he is investigating that murder in this really cool futuristic world. Fish Flies from Jeff Lemire. If you watch our Wind Down Your Weekend, you know almost every issue of this has been in our picks of the week each time it comes out. But this is the story of a man who does some wrong things in the summertime when all the fish flies have taken over the city, and something happens and he becomes quite buggy himself. And in that time period, he ends up meeting a little girl who feels very alone and not like she has anybody to connect with, and the two of them connect, and it's a beautiful story. And then lastly, from Blood Moon Comics, we've got Talks. This is your post-apocalyptic world, very much like Mad Max Fury Road or Tank Girl. We've got a world where everybody is radiated by the sun. They become mutants. We have one girl who for some reason doesn't mutate, and now she's also pregnant, and everybody wants to figure out how, why, and how they can steal that baby. And the winner for this category is Fish Flies from Jeff Lemire and Image Comics. Please pick this book up if you haven't. Every issue is square bound, so you actually get a lot of story, and Jeff Lemire is crushing it. All right, we are going to go to Best Horror Book. You're going to be here for a while. I could have put half the books in the store on this category, so we're going to do our best. 7 Years in Darkness from Joseph Schmalk. This is basically if you could make a very, very, very dark version of Harry Potter. A massive universe that's built out very, very early on about a bunch of kids who are from these lineages of people who have to go to a school that teaches them how to be magical people. And if you don't pass your classes, you die. And if you do pass your classes, you still might die because it's really, really dangerous and only 7 people are going to make it out alive. It's insane and great artwork. The Sickness. This has been one of those books that came out of nowhere for so many people. This is the story of a young boy who is living during the World War II time period, and he has started having all these crazy hallucinations. And then we also follow a doctor who is from the future, who is in his time period trying to figure out what all those hallucinations and things were. All black and white book, very detailed pencil work, and a crazy story that you have to read in slow detail every time. A Nightfall double feature. We are finally getting a title from Vault with the name of their horror imprint on it. So this is the new flagship, I guess we could say, title for the Nightfall imprint. This features a story at the very beginning from Daniel Kraus, and then a second story that actually has art from Chris Sheehan, who are the team behind the Autumnal, which is, a fan favorite and a Bat City favorite for sure. Both of these stories are great horror books that are going to get you on that creepy feeling, and you get 2 stories in every issue. It's not an anthology, though. You do not get different stories every issue. You get the same story every issue, but you get 2 of them in that. We've got The Devil That Wears My Face from Mad Cave. This is all about an exorcism that goes really, really wrong, and the priest who goes to do it, and the demon that's inside the body do a total, complete, and 180 face-off situation. And so take Face Off and Count of Monte Cristo and the exorcism and blend them all together in the Spanish Inquisition. You get a great story. Mortal Terror. This is your reverse Dracula story. It's actually one of the only vampire books I brought because there's so many vampire books this year. But this one does it in reverse, and so it's so cool. This is all about a world where everybody is a vampire and Dracula is the human, and where Renfield has become, like, believes he's become mortal or is, like, trying to, and there's all this war between humans and vampires, and it's super cool. Specs. I'm kind of cheating. This came out, this is one of those that came out at the end of last year. So the end of 2022 and really like fell through 2023, so it still counts. But this is all about two kids who get some of those x-ray type glasses, the magic glasses that are in the back of the book, the comic book. They end up arriving on their doorstep, and they have a very monkey's paw situation where everything they wish for comes true, but never in the way they want it to. Pop-up. This was a great one from Blood Moon Comics about a woman who brings in all of the biggest horror artifacts in the world to one place, and you should never bring in a bunch of cursed artifacts into one place because all bad things will happen, and she definitely lives that very quickly. The Neighbors. What happens when you move to a new town and everybody in the town is creepy and is out for you and your family? You're going to find out when you read The Neighbors because it happens, and it happens fast. Hairball is about a young girl who moves in with a couple that adopts her, and once the family kind of gets together, they realize they weren't prepared for a kid. They don't really want one, and so they end up being very angry about it, and she finds a cat who has been abandoned, and she's like, hey, now we can like each other, and the cat starts making sure that people who don't like her don't live very long. All Eight Eyes. Giant spiders are attacking New York City, and only two people really know that they're there, and they have to do their best to stop those giant spiders from taking over the city. Again, some really, really cool line work in that book. And Children of the Black Sun. An eclipse happens, and all of the kids who are born underneath that eclipse or conceived in that eclipse become very much Village of the Damned kind of kids who can mind control people and have these weird things that happen with their eyes. They all want to destroy the world. We're going to see if that happens when you read the book. And the winner for Best Horror Book this in 2023 was 7 Years in Darkness from Joseph Schmock and CEX Publishing. This is such a good story. If you haven't read it yet, please grab this book. It's still ongoing. You can still jump in at your local comic shop.
We reordered it.
We do. We reordered that book, probably more than almost anything else that we reorder because people just absolutely love it and are sending it to friends and everything. It's crazy. All right, I'm going to throw these two on the ground so I don't get confused. Best Action Adventure. We're going to kick it off with The Blackout Bombshell, which was, of course, nominated for Best Writing. This is the story of a guy who is a detective and gets really, really drunk and accepts a case and doesn't even remember that he accepted this case. And so we're actually following him work the story in reverse as he tries to figure out why he accepted this case and how he solved it without ever knowing what it was. Click, Click, Boom, the story of a young girl whose grandfather raised her to protect herself, and when he gets killed by some evil people, she goes after him, but she can only speak in the terms of photographs, and so everywhere she goes, she leaves photographic evidence as a way to let people know she's coming for them. That's not, I guess it doesn't matter. You don't know what's next on the page. Final Gamble from Band of Bards. This is about two people who get really addicted to gambling and they've lost all of their money and they need some help, so they go to try to enter a poker game. And guess what? Everybody that comes always loses to the house, and the house keeps you and makes you go into these gladiator battles. Some people become gladiators, others become people who have to bid their body parts essentially to try to survive. And we're gonna see if these guys ever make it out alive. Charm City. This is about a girl who is from a witch family, and her all these murders are happening and investigations are going on. It's crazy. She can't figure out whether or not the people who are attacking them are inside the witchcraft community or outside the witchcraft community, but it's a great witch detective story. Local Man. If you took 90s comics from Image and you brought them to the forefront of right now, and you put that person, kicked that person out of his superhero team and made him go back home and learn how to live like the rest of the world, you would get Local Man. It's a great action adventure story with a lot of heart and a lot of 90s feel with some correction for things that we need to make better. Hunt, kill, repeat. What if the gods were still in charge of our world, the Greek gods that is, and they didn't want us to have any kind of happiness whatsoever? Well, it would be terrible, and that is where Artemis comes in. She, for the first time in millennia, falls in love with the man and decides she is going to go after the gods to give humanity its rights back and redeem herself and her family that was lost. Junkrabbit. This is the story of a world where we've destroyed the world. People live in bubble cities, except for everybody who is poor, who is forced to live in the junk and the dust that remains in the outside world. And when they try to stand against the people in charge, only the Junkrabbit can save them. And we find some really great story in that. And then lastly, I put this over here, we have Barnstormers from Scott Snyder and Tula Lotay. And this is the story of a guy who wants to be a barnstorming pilot. He comes back from, the war, decides he's going to be a pilot. He's going to make all this money. He ends up crashing into a wedding, and the woman who's supposed to be marrying the guy decides she's going to run off with him, and we get murder, we get mayhem, and we get a great love story. And I'm just going to leave this up here because our winner for Best Action Adventure this year is Barnstormers. I struggled to find a copy of this to even bring up here because everybody has loved this book so much, and rightfully so. All right. We've got Best Comedy Satire, and we are going to kick it off with Great British Bump Off, which I actually don't have copies of left to show you, but again, Agatha Christie-style murder mystery in the form of the Great British Bake Off, and one of the most adorably hilarious characters that we follow along with. Rumpus Room from Mark Russell and AWA. This is Best Comedy Satire category for a reason, because Mark Russell is not only funny, but he brings the great satire to the stories. And this one is all about that 1%er who, when people make him mad, he just throws them in a cage underneath his house, and then he uses them for his own specialty products that keep him looking young and fresh. So we've got White Savior, which is the story of a kid who thinks that it's really weird that he has to study all of the Asian culture and things that he's a part of, and he doesn't really care about them. And he gets flashed back in time to the actual story of this great white samurai that he's been told came to save everybody in the Last Samurai kind of situation. And when he gets there, he finds out that none of this went down the way anybody believed it to be, and we get a great parody of The Last Samurai. True Cults. This is all about a group of people who work in a fast food restaurant, and they really take their job seriously, and then one day they find themselves suddenly wrapped up in an attempt to stop an evil cult from taking over the whole community, and it is hilarious because it's all fast food burger puns the whole way through, and it's so good. And then lastly, Spy Superb. This is all about a guy who is selected to be the next Spy Superb, which is a title that we give to spies in America, but they're actually just civilians who have no idea that they're spies. This guy thinks, oh, I was chosen because I'm incredible and amazing, and he's not in any way, shape, or form. It's absolutely hilarious. Only 3 issues long. You should grab that if you didn't read it. And the winner is, for Best Comedy Satire, Rumpus Room from Mark Russell and AWA. This is such a great story, and it's still going on, and it's still bringing out like some great commentary every week, and just a hilarious adventure. I mean, the guards wear furry suits when they go after the people that are, it's just amazing. Please read it. It's so good. All right. Best Love Story. We are going to pull these over here. Starting out with Tear Us Apart. This is a Romeo and Juliet style story that takes place in what we're made to believe is a post-apocalyptic world, but actually may not be what we've been told any of that time. We follow a young girl and boy as they realize they'd rather be in love with each other than be trained to be assassins, and see how that works out for them. Sainted Love from Vault Comics. This is the story of 2 men who are in love and happily married in the early 1900s, but that's illegal, and when the cops come for them, they must jump through a time portal that they have built and go to the future, and they end up finding out that this has been a problem and is a problem in every time, and now they are determined to save people from that. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, which didn't start this year, but has continued this year and has continued to be a great love story, which we didn't have the love story aspects of until 2023, so I feel like it counts. But this is the story of Masio and Mezi, two people who are trapped in a post-apocalyptic world trying to survive, who are very opposite people and come together to not only build a love between themselves, but between everybody that they meet that is left over in this world. The Hunger in the Dusk, which I already showed you and I put away. Hunger in the Dusk is an absolutely beautiful story that has not only a couple that has just gotten married that is trying to figure out how to work between those problems and against the people that have the families that brought them together, but it also has that, are they going to I hate you, I love you, I kind of want to be connected to you story going on between the last man standing leader who is a human and an orc woman who is a princess and a healer who has been brought to work with them. And the couple has really built up this incredible tension where you thought they were going to get together. Then it was like, oh, now we hate each other. G. Willow Wilson is writing the best ongoing love battle story that you could possibly be expecting. So, and then lastly, Barnstormers, literally a story about a love that leads to murder and mayhem. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And the art is so surreal, and the way that the coloring and the art and the writing all blend together just makes a really great love story. And the winner for a best love story is Barnstormers. I really just wanted to see this couple end up happily in love, and I hope that when you read it, you find all the happiness you need to. All right, best universe building. We are going to, of course, I try to save as many of these behind as I can. Something epic. This built such a huge universe so quickly, then destroyed it, then built another universe, then built another universe, and so much more. Constantly building out bigger and bigger worlds all the way through. 7 Years in Darkness. We built an incredible school that has so many different worlds. Like, they went to go to a class in the last issue, and it was like, oh, now we're like going through these tunnels that open up into these massive worlds. The rules of the school are completely well explained. The places that they go to are incredible. Such a great job from Joseph on that one. The Hunger in the Dusk. I can honestly tell you where almost everything in this world is. I know where we travel through. It's very almost similar to like watching a Lord of the Rings movie, but on a more accessible basis. Black Cloak builds a giant universe that has all the different places. We've got mermaids, we've got fairies, we've got humans, we've got people that have different cultures of different kinds of mythological beings, and that world that they built out was absolutely huge. And again, it's kind of like Saga, where instead of running into each thing and explaining the overall world really detailed all the time, they kind of just give you a little overview of each one and kind of let you build it out in your imagination all at the same time. Edenwood. This is a story of a world where demons and vampires and witches have been fighting, and all of these demons, and as they fight against each other, if they come into our world and they cross your city now becomes part of that universe. And the way they've built the fantasy worlds into the human worlds and vice versa has just been absolutely fantastic so far. And then lastly, we've got Fungi from Scout Comics. This is the story, essentially the Game of Thrones kind of story, that level of world building, except everybody in it is a different type of mushroom. And so you actually get this, and I'm gonna open this. Can I open it? You said this was your copy.
It's fine.
Okay, because I want to show the map.
Handle gently.
I will handle your copy very gently. And then I will let you put it away. So, is the map in the front or the back? There we go. There is actually a universal map that shows you where these mushrooms are from, and we get little bits and pieces of the world opening up, kind of like in Game of Thrones, where on the very first episode you saw part of the map, and then each episode as new parts of it were included, more of it would show up. We get that same level of fantasy build out in Fungi, and I'm gonna let you put that back in there. And we get to see each of these characters and the relationship they have with each other really build out as well. Such a huge world so quickly, and has been an incredible fan favorite here at Bat City, which is why Best Universe World Building for 2023 actually is going to go to Fungi. This has been such an incredible book. If you haven't grabbed a copy of issues 1 or 2 yet, please do. I'm going to slide that over to Matt since it is his personal copy. All right. We are going to go to the kids side of things. So we're going to talk about the best single issues for kids, things that actually came out individually and weren't just graphic novels. And first up, we're going to start with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures. This brought the cartoons of the Ninja Turtles back to everybody and really just made such a fun, exciting experience for old fans and new. This has been one of the most popular series. I'm so glad that it started as a mini and they decided to expand it to an ongoing. If you love the cartoons, you need to read this book. Kaya actually started... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean Kaya. Kaya was 2022. Don't look at that. That wasn't there for that. Hades. Hades is we've had the Disney lines come out from Dynamite this year, and this was one that everybody really, really loved. Seeing the Hades story, it nailed the voice. So many of them, it's like, oh, okay, you got like the general idea of it. This one really nailed where you could actually believe that James Wood was actually delivering every single line in the story, and it just was hilarious the whole way through. Kara, Guardian of the Realms from Visi 8 Entertainment. This is such an incredibly amazing story. This was their first launch from Visi 8, and it's about a young girl who is in charge of the realms of nature, the realm of nature, and just keeping everything growing and safe and wonderful. And she's always lived on her own, and for the very first time, a couple of humans land there, and she has to learn that you can't necessarily trust everybody, but you still need to have a good heart. My Little Pony, The Unicorn of Oz. This is one of the My Little Pony classic retellings, and it's all about the Wizard of Oz, so you know that I biasly consider this to be one of the best books that came out last year, and I'm not even mad to say it that way. Everybody should do a hilarious parody of the Wizard of Oz for all publishing companies, and I will buy them all. And let's just do it. And then if you put ponies in, it's even better. And then Family Time. This was from Ablaze Comics. This was about a family that goes on a vacation to Ireland. And when they get there, the kids end up getting sucked, and the parents get sucked back in time, and only the kids realize it. And they end up having to save their parents and everybody else if they're ever going to make it back to the modern time. And the winner for Best Kids Single Issue from 2023 is Kara, Guardian of the Realms. Congratulations, and Visi 8. What a great launch that you had this year for here in America, and we absolutely love all the titles that we were able to pick up. All right, Best Teen Single Issue Comic. So we've got the new one coming out from Boombox. We've got Zawa. This is from Michael, like Dialinus. He is the artist on Wind, and now he is taking on everything in this book. And so we are getting the story of three teenagers who want to bring food back to their community. The one kid, his dad was a chef, and they want to bring all this food back, and they end up, him and his sister and their friend break into the political leader's house where all the secret food is being stored, and they end up finding the monster that everybody is supposed to be afraid of. Stoneheart from Emma Kubert. This is all about a young girl who is the paladin of her world, and she is the strongest one that they've ever seen, and she has such a I don't care what you say leader mentality that they end up wiping her mind and dropping her in a nearby village. And this is the story of her kind of discovering bits and pieces of who she is and kind of bringing back that world for herself. Ranger Academy from the Boom Studios in the Power Ranger universe. I can't say it enough. This book surprises the crap out of me every time. I love it so much. This is the story of a young girl who lives on a moon with just her dad. Nobody else is there. And when some kids from Ranger Academy crash land on there, she ends up finding herself heading to Ranger Academy and trying to figure out who she is and why she's connected to them. Changelings, also from Busy 8 Entertainment. This is about two teenagers, one who has been raised in the dark world of magic and the other who has been raised in the powerful goodness of humanity. They were switched at birth, as changelings often are, and they are each trying to take over. This is a system that happens every couple hundred years. They have to fight until chaos is destroyed or consumes the world. Really beautiful storytelling in that one for sure. Maeve, Rising Warrior from Red 5. If you've ever wanted to know all about Celtic history and Irish culture, this is such a great story of Maeve, who is a goddess in the Celtic culture, and her rise to that from being just a regular teenager. And Pandora from Emma Kubert and Frank Miller. This is part of the Frank Miller Press. This is the story of a young girl who's just looking for an adventure and happiness, and she finds it in the forest next to her. This is the most classic young adult novel put into comic books that I have seen in a long time. You get all of the pieces of a classic fantasy YA, and it is done so well. And the winner is for Best Teen Single Issue Comic coming out this year, 2023, Stoneheart from Emma Kubert. This book is amazing. Emma's art is amazing. You got to read it, especially if you love fantasy, if you love teen books. This is such a good one for you. And then grab Pandora, too, and just go at them at the same time. All right, I'm not going to put these on the little stand because these are graphic novels and they're going to be a little too heavy. But some books that we had, best graphic novel for kids this year. First up is Shakti. She is the new girl at school, and her moms have moved to this other place. She is trying to keep herself happy and safe. And when she makes a new friend in school and all the bullies kind of pick on her, she learns how to cast some spells to keep herself and her family safe. We get a lot of beautiful Hindi culture in this book that is absolutely fantastic. L's Volume 2 is actually the one that counts for 2023, but I brought Volume 1 just so you'd know where to start. But this is all about a young girl who, every time she experiences a different emotion, her hair color changes, and she doesn't know why, and she doesn't know how she does that. It's very Pixar feeling. There's going to be a little bit of a sci-fi twist that comes into it, but we still get that Pixar art style, Pixar feelings, and that emotion behind it. The Music Box, Welcome to Pandora. This is the kickoff of a series of graphic novels, and this is all about a little girl who, when she turns 8 years old, she's given a music box that belonged to her mother who passed away. And when she opens up the music box, she steps into the magical world of Pandorian, and she makes some new friends, discovers some magic, and learns that there's something about her mom that she didn't know all along. Really, really beautiful. We actually sold out of that twice and brought it back. And then we also have something, I guess I'm going to say this really fast, Lights. This is the wrap-up of the Sheet series. This is all about a young girl who makes friends with the ghosts that haunt her house. She works in a laundromat, and ghosts literally have the sheets over them like they do in classic illustrations. So she ends up having fun with all of the ghosts and becomes friends with a ghost named Wendell. And this is the final book in the series, and they are actually trying to discover who Wendell is, where he came from, and finally put all of that to rest for him, hopefully. And then lastly, there's two more, but I did not have them left in stock, is Mexi Kid, which is a memoir all about a young boy immigrating to America and the experiences he had along the way with his family. And Mimi and the Boohoo Blah Blahs, which is an incredibly hilarious, adorable story all about a young girl who doesn't know what it's like to experience sadness and how you're supposed to get over it. And so she asks all her friends, like, what do you do when you're just sad and you don't know why? And they go through all of these experiences trying to find a way to cheer her up. And the winner of Best Graphic Novel for Kids this year goes to Lights. I've cried in every single one of these, and this one definitely made me cry way more than any of the rest of the series did. But this is absolutely incredible. And if you didn't know, Brianna Thumler actually went to the Ringling School of Art over in Sarasota. So it's super cool to have that go to a local friend. All right, I don't have any of the best graphic novels in stock, so I'm just going to read these really fast. Best original graphic novel for adults, A Guest in the House, which is all about a murder and this woman connecting to that experience. And I haven't read it yet. It was one of Anthony's suggestions, and it made me want to read it really bad. So it almost actually won just because of how much it made me want to read it. Where the Body Was, which is the new Brubaker Phillips story. Gatsby, which is from AWA and is the retelling of The Great Gatsby if it was modernized and it was based on a queer character, and Not a New York Love Story, which starts out as a very beautiful seeming story and then rips your heart out and then puts it all back together in the most broken, wonderful way. And the winner of Best Graphic Novel in 2023 for adults, I'm going with Gatsby because not only did we get a great retelling, but we also got to see it in a new way, and it energized a lot of people, and it brought a lot of people to comics I had never sold a comic to before. I had so many people, actually every single person that bought the first round of that book from us when we sold out were all people who had never bought a comic book before, and they were so captivated by the themes and the fact that it was a Gatsby story that they snagged a copy. So thank you for that great story. All right, best continuing story. So books that started before 2022, or that started in at least 2022 and continued into 2023, and I had to give them an award because I love them. Alice Never After. This is the sequel. This is second volume of Alice Ever After. Technically, Alice Never After did start in 2023, but you can't read it without reading Alice Ever After, so it doesn't count. This is a story of Alice from Alice in Wonderland in her real world getting sucked into the concept of maybe the world that she wanted to be in so bad in Wonderland is actually just her terrible way of dealing with everything, and everybody in Wonderland is just as bad as they are in the real world. It is beautiful. It's one of the best written books. Oh my gosh. Animal Castle. This is volume 2 of the comic From Ablaze. This is your sequel to Animal Farm. It is following a cat who is the last remaining adult cat in the farm, and she is trying to take back the world, and they realize that they fought last time against the pigs with violence, and now that just put the strongest people in charge again, and so they need to find a new way to revolt that doesn't include strength as the primary source. Love Everlasting from Tom King. This is all about a woman who wants to find the perfect love story, so she hops through every single romance novel style that you can get, but every time she gets to the perfect point, something goes wrong, and it ends up sending her to the next thing. Amazing, brings back the pulp romance books in so many incredible ways. If you haven't read it yet, jump in. Traveling to Mars from Mark Russell. We are almost nearing the end of this series, all about a man who is supposed to be dying, and they find out that there are resources on Mars, and everybody wants to be the first person to get there to claim them. So a business hires him to go to Mars, and he is on his own with 2 robots, and he knows that it's a one-way mission, but the experiences he has along the way are absolutely incredible. And then Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, which I already showed you, it is all about, like I said, people living in that post-apocalyptic world, and a very beautiful story. So, best continuing story for 2023 goes to Animal Castle. Seriously, this is one of the most remarkable books on the shelf. It's definitely going to inspire you to start a revolution and hug a cat, which are 2 things everybody should do. All right, best one-shot. We're going to launch it with Opus and Ashes, which is all about 2 girls who think they're going to go on a perfect trip. And when they get there, the mom of one of the girls is there, and she's very angry. And the controlling mother and the winter storm that come end up ruining their vacation in a very big way. A great horror story if you haven't read it. Murder by Mail. This is all about a person who is trying to solve a murder mystery, and guess who that person is? It's you. This puts it basically almost like playing a role-playing game. You get the whole story, but in each thing you also get the transcripts and the different pieces of the puzzle, and before the end you actually get to be the one to try to solve the mystery of who murdered and why. Mise en Place. This is a food manga in comic form as well, but all about a world where people are trying to prepare this perfect food, and there's some battiness that happens during this kitchen, and we see some very emotional big moments come from those characters as they move forward. We've got The Devil's Cut. This is the launch of Distillery Publishing Company. This has all of the new books that are coming out. It's got 13 stories. Some of them are actually one-shots. We see the whole thing in there, but most of them were teasers to launch all of the new books for Distillery, which features people, I'm going to read them to you, Mirka and Doffel, Brian Azzarello, Mark Bernardin, Elsa Cartier, Becky Cloonan, Francisco Francavilla, Lee Garbett, Jock, Joelle Jones, Ariella Cristantina, Tula Latoy, Jamie McKelvey, Junko Mazzino, Stephanie Phillips, Rom V, Eduardo Riso, Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, and Christian Ward. If there is a comic book from an indie publisher that you love, one of those people has probably worked on it or near it in some capacity, and they are all working with Distillery Publishing, and this is the launch to see that and those books that they're creating. And if you didn't get it, you need to get it to make sure you know everything that they're going to put out. And then we also had Creepshow's Christmas special, which was a big fan favorite this year, but I don't have any. I only had like the fancy cover, so we'll talk about that later. All right, and the winner for best one shot, which if you don't know what a one shot is, that is a book that is just the one issue. The whole story is contained in that one issue. It's not going forward. Just thought I should throw that out there really fast. And the winner for that best single story one shot is The Devil's Cut from Distillery. This is going to be something that could be our next Image comics. And you're going to say in 30 years from now, I wish I would have gotten The Devil's Cut so that I had that first little teaser for all those stories, or some of those stories that didn't go beyond that were just one shots. If you don't want to miss out, this is it. The one shot that you need to have this year from 2023, The Devil's Cut. All right, best single issue. These are issues that we pulled out of series. They're not one shots. The stories kept going. And first up, I still don't have it. I don't have it, but Creepshow Volume 2, Issue 1. It was a great story that featured two different stories from two different people, and the first one was a story from Garth Ennis that deals with how to respect women's right to choose. And we are out of it, so because it is amazing, but you should definitely find that one. Also, in some of our best issues was Mare Hollow Volume 1. Or Issue 1, sorry, not Volume 1. Issue 1. This series goes on from here into a graphic novel because it was a Scout Nonstop book, but this is all about a person who is a shoemaker in a small town, and a mysterious woman shows up, and he decides he loves her and he wants to spend all of the time he can with her. And the whole thing looks like claymation. It looks very much like Coraline kind of work. And so if you haven't read this yet and you're a fan of stuff like the claymation movies, especially those darker Tim Burton or even Neil Gaiman stories turned to claymation, you definitely need to grab Mare Hollow. By the Horns, this is The Dark Earth, which is the newest volume of By the Horns, and this is issue 7, and this follows one character as they realize how to deal with their anxiety and their feelings that maybe nobody is their friend, and then realizing that they have friends, they have a family that's there for them, and it was eye-opening, if if you want my bad puns. And then Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, this is actually issue 2, but I'm bringing it for issue 1. Issue 1 was such a huge book that just, again, brought a lot of people to comics who hadn't necessarily picked one up before, all about a bear that is essentially Dexter, who goes to the town to commit murders and comes back and is part of the community and a really sweet person. And we are going to name the winner, and the winner for Best Single Issue Comic is a tie for, again, the two sides of my brain. 1 being Creepshow Volume 2, Issue 1, which I don't have, and 2 being By the Horns, Dark Earth, Issue 7. This was, again, beautiful. It made me cry, and I wanted to give it to all my friends who feel like they're alone. So,
And the other one sold out.
And the other one sold out. So, all right, best anthology series. First up, we've got Project Cryptid from Ahoy Comics, which is all about cryptids. And it's just almost like Pokemon, like you're almost like collecting cryptids as you read it because you get all the information and then you just get a fun story. And you get 2 or 3 in each issue. And so for those who are fans of cryptids, this is, you got to read it because you get funny stories, you get serious stories, you get action stories, you get it all. Dwellings from Oni Place. This is what if you took from what? You laughed
Oni
at me.
Press.
Oh, Oni Press. I can't talk today, guys. Don't talk to me. Dwellings from Oni Press. Good Lord. This is the story of like if you took Harvey Comics, like Casper and all of those cute things, Wendy the Witch, and you made it really, really demonic and scary and horrifying, this is what you would get, and it's amazing every time. And I promise I will know how to speak by the end of the awards show. Deep Cuts from Image Comics. This is an anthology that is all about music in America and our history, and you get to see single stories about different people who really just wanted to be like jazz musicians and the way that impacted their life as they went on. All right, Swan Songs. This is going to be the W. Maxwell Prince anthology story that's all about people's end of their lives and where they are going with that and how that concept of death and destruction kind of really impacts everybody and just where it leads us to. And Creepshow. This is your classic horror Creepshow. Everything you've ever seen from like a Creepshow story, a Creepshow movie. You're getting multiple stories in each one that just bring that crypt keeper kind of person telling us these stories of darkness and bad decisions that humans make. All right, and the winner is for Best Anthology from 2023. We've got Deep Cuts. This is absolutely beautiful. Almost every single issue has made me cry. So if you haven't read it yet and you love music, you get some songs that have the sheet music in the back. You get beautiful stories. You should read it. It's so good. Okay, we've got, do I have these? Yes, we're going to do best cover artist really fast. First up, we've got Skinner, who does the 1 in 10 variants for Creepshow that are always intricate and scary and crazy and fly off of our shelves almost every time we put them out there. We've got Chris Sheehan, who I'm bringing their cover for The Cull because I can show you that, but they definitely had a cover for Vault Comics, which was just All-Star, but it's a black bag variant that I can't show you on the internet. We've got Marco Fontanelli, who does outstanding work and made this incredible cover for Scout Comics and the Mitch series, and he has done so many covers for Scout this year that have really just drawn people in. I can literally just sell a book because I say that Marco did that cover. We've got Jenny Frison, who I'm going to show you 2 different kinds of covers from. Jenny Frison is known for all her work at Boom, but she has been all over tons of different comics this year, just really bringing out some incredible stuff and just wowing people at every turn. And so we just love to see Jenny's covers. And I honestly don't know who wins. I never picked a winner for that because I love all of them. So you tell me who wins best cover. I don't know. You know what? No, I take that back. I do know. And it's because I have it hanging up next to my bathroom, but I'm giving the award to Jenny Frison for a cover that I didn't bring here, which is the exclusive San Diego Comic-Con exclusive for Alice Never After. It was actually absolutely stunning cover, so intricate, detailed, amazing, and just a beautiful cover that I literally got slabbed and put next to my bathroom because it's so pretty. Not in my bathroom.
Signed and slabbed.
Signed and slabbed, yes.
And you have the San Diego variant.
I do. It's a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. So the next category doesn't have really anything to show you. It's a category that one of my best friends came up with called character you most want to be friends with. And this doesn't necessarily have a winner. I just wanted to tell you about 3 characters that you might want to be friends with that books came out last year. One of them is Shauna, the lead from the Great British Bump Off. She was so hilarious and so spunky, and she was just always trying to do the right thing and was always doing it in the most terrible way possible. If they could just make a show out of Great British Bump Off, it would be amazing. And she just has that almost like the Emma Stone kind of hilariousness to her, where she's just quirky at every turn, but she's such a great lead. The other is Shade Whisper from Stoneheart. I love her rebellious nature, and I love how much she just wants to be a good person, and she's trying to take care of everybody, but she doesn't even know why she feels so strongly about it, and she's an absolutely great character. And then the last character I most want to be friends with is not because of what she can bring to me, but what I wish I could do for her, and that is Franny from Fishflies. She needs a friend, and she wants one so bad, and she's so sweet and so caring, and she just needs somebody to love her. And I'm here for you. I want to hug you. You are the person, like, if I had to pick somebody that I wanted to be friends with the most from a comic right now, I need to be friends with Franny and just know that she'll love me no matter what, and I will love her the same. So also a category that doesn't necessarily have a winner, but comics I didn't expect to love as much as I do. I've got a couple of them I want to show you. First up is Knights from Image Comics, and this is very much, if you put Miyazaki films into American culture in the now, you've got a town with a vampire. Every town has a vampire. We're following along with Gray the vampire. We're following along with a young boy who goes to live with his cousin who makes terrible bad decisions and maybe haunted by some demons, and their other roommate who is named Matt, who is a skeleton who can't pass on. Beautiful story, very slice of life meets fantasy in that Miyazaki kind of way. Traveler's Guide to Flagoria. This is a book I never would have put on my radar as something that I was going to love as much as I do, because it is so sci-fi and ridiculous all at the same time, and I am obsessed with where these characters are going. I really want to know if our main character, who's gotten trapped inside of Flagoria, is going to make his way back to the human realm, and if he's going to be able to help the Flagorian who's trapped in the human world get back to the woman he loves who is waiting for him. Such a cool story. Assassin's Apprentice. This is all about a young boy who is the illegitimate child of a prince, and he's being trained to be an assassin and possibly be an asset that they can use. But he also has the ability to talk to animals, and so he uses that to go about things in a different way. He has no desire to kill people, and it's such a great story about the right and wrongs and things of that nature. I talked about a couple of them earlier, meaning Sacrificers, Ranger Academy, Mortal Terror, and Local Man. All books that I was like, wow, these really came out of nowhere for me. And I really, again, I'm going to hold up Ranger Academy because this is a Power Rangers book that I'm not a Power Rangers fan at all. And every time this book comes out, it goes to the top of my list of books that I want to know where it's going and what's going to happen with these characters. So, it's definitely on the list. And then lastly, for books I didn't expect to love as much as I do, is Red Light from AWA. I really didn't expect to find myself so invested. Honestly, the AI from this book actually could go on my list of people I want to be friends with as well. This is about a girl who is an AI robot type thing, and she is made to just be there to pleasure people. But she's the first one who they give empathy to, and so she ends up having a lot of emotional experiences with different people, and she realizes there's life outside of this brothel that she's been forced to live in, and she's trying to find her way out of it in order to help a little girl also have experiences of the real world. And so again, just a couple of books that had to make my list of comics I didn't expect as much to love as I really do. And they all are winners because they blew my mind, and they keep doing it because most of them are still going on. And you should check them out. And of course, did I name Sacrifices in them? Because I always will. And then comics that started at the end of the year that people need to check out that I was surprised by. One being the Ministry of Compliance. This is all about a world where our aliens have invaded us, but they've been working on what that invasion was going to look like for years, and now their home planet has had a hostile takeover, and they're all just kind of stuck on Earth trying to figure it out, but the Ministry of Compliance is still trying to keep everybody in line, and she is so cool. I want to see how she runs things. Almost Dead, which is all about a zombie apocalypse that the only person that we're following, who may be the only person in the world that's not a zombie, has no idea there's a zombie apocalypse. She keeps interacting with zombies and not realizing they're zombies. It's almost like if you took the real horror of a zombie, Walking Dead kind of show, and you mixed it with the aloofness of the characters from Shaun of the Dead, and made them move at that pace. We've only had one issue. Can't wait to see where it goes. Pine and Merrimack, also a great start to a series at the end of the year from Kyle Starks and Boom Studios. This is about a woman who runs her own private investigation company with her husband. They're determined to never take on big cases because that's where they both come from, and now they are trapped in one, and they are going to have to figure it out. And also could have been on Best Romances in one issue, already one of the best romances that I've seen. We also had Somna, which I obviously don't have any more copies of. I already told you that. From Becky Cloonan and Tula Lette, story about a woman who is married to the witch finder for her town who does all the trials, and she has started having these very seductive dreams, possibly sleeping with the devil. Not really sure. We're going to figure that out as the story goes on. And Beyond Real from Vault Comics. It was the other free comic Vault gave out, and I think I might be out of it too, honestly. But it is all about a woman and her partner who he believes that the world is a simulation, and she believes that that's not necessarily the case. Something happens tragically to the both of them, and suddenly she sees the world as he's always seen it. Crazy awesome art, crazy awesome story. It's going to be good. And lastly, for books that just launched at the end of the year that we can't wait to see where they go, we've got Animal Pound from Tom King and Boom Studios. This is a retelling of Animal Farm in a pound that involves cats and dogs and the secret ingredient, the ones who you know are going to be tricksters somewhere down the road, the bunnies. We have only just taken over the pound, and we're going to see how this plays out for them. This is possibly Tom King's best writing. It is the most literary comic that I've seen him do in a really long time, and it's really, really, really good, and I can't wait to see where that goes. All right, and then, because, you know, I gotta tell you my top picks of the year. Since I don't have it, I'm gonna start there, but here are my, 4 top books, and it is Somna, 1 issue in, still counts as one of my favorite books of 2023. Very excited about that. Other top pick of the year for me is, of course, Barnstormers. What a beautiful book. What a great story. Absolutely cannot speak highly enough of this book. You have to grab it. We also have in my top picks from 7 Years in Darkness. I am a mess. 7 Years in Darkness from Joseph Schmock and CEX. Again, adult Harry Potter, but really, really, really dark and really fantastical art and really great storytelling. I love the world so much. And then lastly, if we're going to talk about my picks of the year 2023, you know it's coming. This is my book. I love this book so much. Something Epic. So incredibly well done. It inspired me to want to do so many things. I love talking to people about writing, about art, about imagination, and about what we can accomplish with that. And seeing this book that did exactly that in so many different ways, and for Simon to be writing it, drawing it, lettering it, coloring it, doing all of these different things was absolutely phenomenal. And I can't... He didn't do the lettering. I'm sorry, Simon didn't do the lettering. He did everything because he has a translator. But it was so phenomenal, and to see all these different kinds of art come together and to see that story, well done. It was such an incredible year for comics, as it always is. 2024 has already started off with some great books, as we mentioned at the end there. Cannot wait. We are going to post all of these winners in actual graphic form so you can follow along and see who it was, or if you're watching on YouTube, we'll post them in a link, or not a link, in the notes on the bottom eventually. But thank you everybody for joining us for the first ever Batastic Awards for Small Press and Indie Comics. I'm Shannon, again, Small Press Shann, here to happily gush about books with you every Sunday night at 9 p.m. on our Facebook or on our YouTube channel anytime. Please join us, and in case we don't see you, happy reading, everyone.